Welcome everybody to another edition of Behind the Scenes Live, BTS Live for short, episode number 23. We're getting up there. Today's episode is live video quick start guide, and we'll get into that a little bit. But before we go any further, I want to introduce my partner in this endeavor, Mark Rogers. Hey Mark, how are you?
I'm doing great. Spring left us. Hopefully it's coming back. I think it's going to be about 15 degrees warmer today than it was yesterday, but we got hit with a touch of mild winter again over the weekend, and I wasn't too happy about that. I'm also detoxing from social media today. Just today. No social media. It's going to be no social media Monday for me.
Wow.
I hope this doesn't count. I don't think it does.
Nah, this is all right. You got to do a little bit here, you know. Anyways, it's how it's weather in Connecticut, right, Mark? I mean, that's how it is. I'm just going to adjust my level here. That's how it is. I mean, it almost seems like we got a couple of teaser days in March this year, and that's how it is around here. And then it doesn't want to let go. When we're into early May here, and it's still a little chilly at night, and this week's going to be a little unsettled with rain, but I'm looking ahead at the long-range forecast, and looks like next week's all 70s, and so that should start, hopefully, the string of good weather. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape, and I saw some shots from Denver from over the weekend, and for as much as I love Colorado and all that sunshine out there, you talk about a late winter that they enjoy out there, and some early winters in October. I saw a whole lot of snow on the ground in Colorado over the weekend.
Yeah, they got it even worse out there because their weather is all over the place. I mean,
yes.
It's funny because I'm Snapchat buddies with some folks out there, and it's funny. One day, and you can put the temperature in there. One day it's like 82 degrees. Another day it's snowing. It's like 32. And so we think it's bad here, but yeah, those folks are hardy, and also they're very used to changeable weather. But anyways, I digress. So let's get right into it today. Today we're going to kind of go back to kind of our roots here. When we first started this show, really one of the purposes is to help people get started with video production, and how do you get started? It can be very intimidating, certainly. We talk about equipment. In fact, even the way we do this show, I know we strive for a high-end production, and we've talked about that it's not overnight that you get to this level, but the good news is with the tools today and access, you can do some really good quality, and I call it clean and simple productions without a lot of know-how. It doesn't take that much. It doesn't take very little equipment, very inexpensive. And I'm just going to go through a couple of key points, keep it really, really simple today as far as kind of things you need to look at, especially with microphones and cameras. Obviously, internet connection is important, lighting's important, and I'm going to skip over that to keep it real simple. Two main points, the microphone and the camera, and this is strictly for the desktop. So this is great for people on Blab, who might want to do a show or again, a platform like Blab is great because it helps you get started. It has everything right there, and this helps you kind of concentrate on the important things. So audio and video, very, very important, right? So microphones, right? We talk a lot about condenser versus dynamic microphones. And I'm going to show you an example of one here that people probably have seen a lot on Blab. This is a good example of a condenser microphone from Blue Microphones. It's called the Yeti. Very, very popular. And this is a great mic. No question about it. The advantage of a condenser is it's very, very sensitive. It'll pick up a lot of it'll pick up your voice, very accurate. The disadvantage is it picks up everything. It's very, very sensitive. So in a non-studio environment that's not optimized for really good sound, you could end up with a situation where you get a lot of echo or room noise, and that's probably not what you want. Another advantage is this microphone it's USB, so it's plug and play. But, again, condenser mics are great in the right environment, right? So let's take a look at another set of microphones here. And the other type of microphone is a dynamic microphone, right? So I got two here that are good examples. One is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. It's on the left-hand side. And the other one is a good example of a pretty good workhorse mic. It's a Shure SM58. And the one on the right you'll see lots of times on TV during musical performances. And the reason I highlight that is that's a professional mic. It's about $100. It's an XLR. It's meant to work with a mixer. And it's a workhorse. It's all metal. It's really well built. And I have a couple of these myself. I use these on the road. And you can really bang them around. They're built like tanks. But the one I'm going to really concentrate on is the one on the left, the ATR 2100, as my recommendation. So this is from Audio-Technica. And the reason why I really love this mic, especially for beginners or people just getting into it and really have, looking for a place to start, is this on the bottom here. All right, this is the bottom of the microphone. And you'll see several connections here. This first connection that I'm pointing to is the XLR connection. This is a professional connection. It's a balanced line, meaning that it uses a 3-pin connector, and it's particularly good at eliminating noise in the audio. But the downside is you have to work, connected to a mixer because it's analog, right? The one I want to really pay attention to here is a USB connector. This is a USB microphone, so that means it has a sound card built in, meaning that's digital. So what does that mean to you guys just starting out? It means that you just plug and play. So it comes with the cord. You plug in one end to this USB connector, the other end to your USB connector on your computer, and then it just shows up as an audio device in your computer, which makes it very, very easy to operate. No special software, nothing to worry about there. It's plug and play. So on a platform like Blab, you plug it in. No drivers, PC or Mac. When you get ready to go on camera, when you select your audio device, you just come down and select Audio-Technica ATR 2100, and you're off and running. You're ready to go. The other reason I like this mic, as I mentioned before, it's dynamic, right? And a dynamic microphone is not as sensitive, and it's also cardioid, meaning that it just picks up right in front of it. So it's going to cut down a lot of the room noise. So many people broadcasting on Blab or also broadcasting for the doing YouTube videos or just getting started, you don't have a professional studio with good soundproofing and all that stuff. So you'll hear a lot, especially the folks that really know this stuff. You'll hear a lot of recommendations for dynamic microphones. In fact, the one I'm using here is a higher end dynamic microphone. It's a large diaphragm microphone, a Heil PR40. You'll see a lot of these with podcasters. But I go back to the slide here with the ATR 2100, and the good news is this is around $50 on Amazon. So this is why it's a good feature. Now I will point out on the bottom there, the USB connector. The one disadvantage with this microphone, and I must caution you guys if you do decide to go with this, is that USB connector is a little fragile. So you want to make sure that you are careful when you plug in your USB cable to that connector, because it's just kind of glued in there. So many times when the problems with this microphone is lots of times the USB connector will become, unattached, and you'll have problems there. The good news is that this particular microphone has a lifetime warranty with Audio-Technica. So you just have to send it in if you have problems, and you're able to get a replacement. The other thing I want to point out on the mic is the other jack here. That jack that I'm pointing to there is a headphone jack. So the other good news is you can literally monitor your audio directly from the microphone, latency free. And so that's another little tip and another little feature of this mic. So it's really kind of a complete package for about $50. And again, no knowledge needed, plug and play. It's really easy to operate. And that's all you have to worry about there. So you got the mic, which is, in my opinion, really even more important than the video. People will put up with slightly, off video, maybe have a little buffering or maybe have a little interference in your video. People put up with that, but if they can't hear you clearly, then that's going to be an issue. So what do you do about video? How do you keep it simple? Well, you might have seen us talk about this one. This is you want to get an HD webcam. The one we recommend is the Logitech C920. Again, very inexpensive, usually around 60, 70 bucks tops on Amazon. And again, the reason why I like this particular webcam is it's easy to operate, plug and play, both Mac and PC. It's also HD, 720p, so it's going to give you a good, clean picture. It's also great in most lighting situations, as long as the light isn't even, but it's really good in lighting situations, automatic exposure. And the key with any webcam is you want to have even lighting because it's trying to auto compensate. The other thing is it has a nice wide angle lens, so you can be fairly close, and it's really designed to work with a computer, so you're going to be normally pretty close to the computer, so it's designed to work that way. The other key benefit with this particular camera is it has a tripod mount. So that's kind of cool, right? On the bottom. So why is that important? Well, you can put it on a tripod, right? So the one I'm showing there is just a tabletop tripod. You can get them anywhere. Amazon has them. You can also put it on a full-size tripod and use it as a regular camera. So then what that enables you to do is you're able to position that camera any way you want. So you don't have to put it on top of your monitor. It's designed to go on top of a computer monitor, but you don't have to do that. Using it with a tripod means that you can position it any way you want, which is great, So, and that's another key point. And I'm going to let Mark handle sort of like the camera positioning and looking into the camera and all that. But that's important, Mark. We talk about cameras and microphones, but that's really, keeping it really simple there. And the key is the quick start. And I'll talk a little bit once you get through your section here. I'm going to talk about why you should not stop at quick start. But I know you have some tips as well. Once you have your camera and your microphone and your computer, obviously, then the other part of it is in front of the camera. How do you kind of go about that? I know you have some tips for us there.
You kind of took me down memory lane because when I first started, I was just going off the external microphone right off the laptop, and then Marty led me to the Yeti. I started with the Yeti, then I went to a Shure mic, had some issues with the Scarlett box, and now I'm with the, what is this, Marty? Audio-Tech?
That is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100.
There it is. So Marty sends me the link. I just make the purchase. That's basically what it comes down to. I get the full description, but he basically sends me the link, and then I'm able to purchase
there.
Go, And I've got the Logitech, as just described.
Yes,
the 920C.
The C920. Yep. So you got everything you need there.
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
Now we can work on the frills. So you mentioned, to segue here, you mentioned, Marty, the camera position, which I'm actually talking about the microphone position before we get to the camera position. I have some issues here with my desk setup, trying to accommodate exactly the way that my mic should be positioned. So I'm not maximizing my mic the way I have it positioned here, but I've got it positioned as close to straight on as I possibly can get it. I've tried it in front of the desk. The arm doesn't reach, all sorts of issues. So I'm not even taking advantage of the microphone as well as I should right now. But in regards to looking at the camera and the camera positioning, if you go to any professional studio, the camera position is going to be slightly higher than eye level. So that's what I'm achieving right now, whether you need to stack up some books, whatever you need to do to make sure that the laptop or the camera ultimately is level and basically at eye level or slightly above eye level is the position that you're looking for to make it look as professional as possible.
And people will notice both of our shots here. We're both, and also if you're going to do a two-shot, I mean, this is a little bit more advanced, but if you're having if you're using Skype or if you're using Blab, you want to advise your guests, and you notice that our shots are pretty even as far as our camera angles, and so that kind of gives it a more pleasing look there.
Yeah, so then that basically leads into just the presentation. So let's start with the basic presentation. So 23 shows in, you can imagine we've gone through a number of techniques involving vocal delivery, selection of topics, your branding, all those things. So back to the basics, back to the fundamentals to start us out on this one. So basically, let's start with just looking at the camera. So we're in a day and age where a lot of people are doing basically radio shows on television and now on the internet. So if you want that look, then you're basically going to shoot off camera. You're going to shoot from a corner, but you want to be careful with that so people really understand what you're trying to achieve there, that they're looking at maybe a radio type setup. So for example, if Marty was going to go that route, I think he could probably, with the amount of technology and the equipment that he has around him, he can make it look like a radio studio and achieve that look. I wouldn't be able to do that. It would look silly if I tried to make it look like a radio show on the internet.
Yeah, clean and simple is always better to start out with, for sure. I totally agree with you.
So you generally want to look at the camera, and you want to maintain as much eye contact with the camera as possible. But you want to be comfortable, and you want it to appear as though you're comfortable with your material and with your delivery. So you don't need to be locked in on the camera. A lot of people I've noticed on the internet are very conscious of that, and so it's if you're going to err in one direction, it's a good direction to err in, contact with the camera lens. But there's nothing wrong with referencing some notes for a second or two, or just kind of gathering your thoughts for a quick second. We've talked in previous episodes about the benefit of pausing in your speech, that people get nervous, they ramble, they continue with their speech, and they don't believe that it's effective to pause, or they just feel uncomfortable because they think that they have to continue to talk and talk and talk and never take a breath. And it's not because that's what the material requires. It's basically because they're afraid to stop talking, and pauses can be effective. And we've talked about that in the past, and certainly encourage everybody to go back and check out our previous episodes. But talking about just simple maintaining camera, looking at the camera, that's extremely important. So topics, everything. Content is king. We've talked about that in the past, and choosing a topic. You definitely want to go with something that you're passionate about, something that you have a knowledge base for. Expertise may be a little bit too strong of a word, but definitely something that you're engaged in, involved in, and understand, because you're going to have detractors out there. You're going to have people who are going to challenge you, question you, and you want to be prepared. You want to gain credibility. So you can't choose a topic that you're not well versed in, because people will figure you out.
Yeah, can I just interject real quick here, Mark?
Yep.
That's a really key point, because I see a lot of people when they get into producing video, is that they'll try to look for the hot topic, or what they think is the hot thing, and that's all well and good for SEO, but in the long run, I don't think it's going to do much good for your content and your credibility. You know, I mean, I believe there's an audience for everything, and if done correctly, and if you really know your topic, like for example, you have a YouTube channel, and you talk a lot about college football. You have many shows. You bring on guests and sports, and particularly college football. You know it inside and out, so your content is rock solid, and you're able to talk to it very, very intelligently. And then you build that credibility, and you could tell, versus going for something like, you think it's going to be whatever the niche is, making money on the internet, that seems to be a hot niche. But if you don't know anything about it, it's pointless for you to do, because after a few videos, people will find out. I mean, you can only put up such an act so long, but yeah, very, very, so important because the audience will find you. I mean, I'm sure that's happened with you over the years, right?
Yeah, you're not going to fool anyone, and on top of that, you're going to lose energy. You're going to lose interest, and therefore your energy is going to subside, and you're not going to have what it takes internally to go through the grind, because you don't have the interest or the passion to maintain it. So it's kind of twofold from a general standpoint. Knowledge base needs to be there, and your interest and passion needs to lie in that topic. Otherwise, it's ultimately going to fail. It has no chance of succeeding. You do have to a certain extent, understand your fan base, your potential audience, and what they would like to hear. Again, my YouTube channel in particular, and the other platforms that I use, I'm focused on college football. Am I passionate and engaged in every single topic that I talk about or bring a guest on about. No, I am generally passionate about college football. There are particular teams or subjects I may need to deal with that just because I bring on the Iowa guy to talk about the Iowa offensive line doesn't mean I'm passionate about Iowa's offensive line. So I bring on people to kind of complement the material, but I understand that video is going to get posted to Iowa websites. They're passionate about it. And so I'm understanding the audience and the audience need and the niche that needs to be filled. Also, I think, Marty, people fall in love with just talking about what they're passionate about.
Yep.
And that's usually positive. I think people that are successful are very passionate. I think that goes beyond intelligence. Hard work and passion generally win out.
Yeah, they kind of go together, right? Because you're probably not going to put the hard work in unless you really love doing it. You know, the more you love doing something, probably the harder work you're going to put into accomplishing your goal. And we're not even talking about, you know, you set big goals, but, you know, even the small stair-step goals, you're going to tend to put the work in. Anything worth doing well, you know, it takes effort to do it, you know, and I mean, I don't know of anybody that puts a lot of effort into something they don't want to do. So, you know, I mean, again, you know, what's great about the internet, especially when you're doing live video or producing video for the internet, is that it's a big place. It's global, and it's amazing. There's an audience for everything. You know, I mean, you're finding that with college football, and you over the years you've built this audience, and you can see it develop, right? Even with your comments on YouTube, you know, it's very focused, and people find you. You know, if you're putting out good content.
I think the downside of that is thinking that you can just hit record and play, and then you can just continue to ramble and just talk about your subject. And, oh, I know so much about this, and I love this so much that I'm just going to talk until I stop, and not really having a game plan or a strategy about what you're going to talk about, and it doesn't follow a logical pattern or theme. You know, most things that you choose to talk about have some type of structure. They need to be understood by the audience. So there's a logical beginning, middle, and end. There's a logical progression, whether that's chronologically or in regards to complexity. Like if Marty was going to talk about, and we have on these shows, talk about the building out of a show, we're going to take you from start to finish, or we're going to take you from the simple to the more complex and build up to the professional level at the end. So there's a logical progression to what you're saying. So just don't think, I know so much about this and I love it, so I can just ramble.
Yeah.
Think of 3 or 4 bullet points that the audience needs to understand about that particular topic. And you don't need to cover everything in one video.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about college football, even if you're talking about a particular team, I'm going to be doing over the next few months positional breakdowns for as many teams as I can get to in college football. I'm not going to talk about the entire team in one video. I'm going to do 5 to 6 minute videos. And they're going to be breakdowns of the Michigan quarterback, running backs, wide receivers, all individual videos. You get more views that way, and you're able to really focus and hone in on a particular niche subject. And you can be very pointed that way and very, very focused.
You know, and that's also what's great about the internet. You know, since you don't need the gatekeeper. You know, you work at ESPN. You know, a big name in sports broadcasting. I used to work there, and you know, they're a big media company owned by Disney, and you know, they're you know, they have a general audience, sports audience, and they cover a lot of different sports. And so, you know, they're the gatekeepers. They decide what goes on the air. But what's great about the internet is you're the gatekeeper. You decide what goes on the air. And you can afford, since you don't have to make millions of dollars to support all the expenditures that you have, you can afford to be a lot more niche online than you would be at a big, huge media company who have to, you know, satisfy advertisers and have to get millions of people to watch any one show for it to even break even or be successful. And that way, you know, and that's the advantage I think that smaller content creators have, is that they can go niche, which you should be, I think the more niche you go, the more successful you are. And you're only I mean, to really be, I mean, if you really want to make it a business, I mean, you could make a solid business, with thousands of viewers. And I know that's not coming out of the gate, but again, being honest, and versus millions. And that's the big difference. You don't need the millions of viewers. You need a few thousand viewers to start, and you can certainly get there. But the niche audience, I think, is so key, Mark. And I think you've seen success with college football, and like you just said, you do a series of videos on the top defensive backs in the SEC, and you go through all and what's cool about your subject matter is a lot of it's subjective, so it's great because it generates that discussion.
Yeah, and just kind of, I was just kind of thinking back of the NFL draft was this past weekend, and some of these things that I talk about, I do without really processing and thinking about at this point, but just the NFL draft videos that I did player profiles on 10 or 12 or 15 players, and they followed a progression in that I would introduce a player, Cardell Jones, selected by the Buffalo Bills, 4th round pick, number 132. And then I would follow a logical progression to talk about his collegiate career, and again, in very concise terms, very thorough but concise. And then what is this guy's skill set, and then how's that translate to the NFL and fit the team that drafted him? And that was pretty much the progression. Now, I didn't sit there and say, bullet point number 1, I'm going to talk about Cardell Jones' collegiate career. Bullet point number 2, bullet point number 3. But that was the progression, and I separated those lines of thinking and those subtopics within the greater topic.
Yeah, and you raise a really good point there, because you're talking about have an idea what you're going to talk about, an outline, but you're not necessarily writing out a complete script. It's the type of video that you don't. There are types of videos that you do have a script and you read it maybe through a teleprompter, but many of the types of videos that people on Blab and these other platforms and people we're talking to here during this show are more about talking about things about, things you're passionate about, but actually both. And if you know your subject matter and you're passionate about it, you shouldn't need a script. You want to know, okay, I'm gonna, like today, I knew I was going to talk about microphones, I knew I was going to talk about webcams, and I made a couple slides, and then I don't have a script, because I know what I'm using, I know what to recommend, and I just talk about it and some of the key points, more conversational. Catherine Lang is raising a good point in the chat on Blab. The trick is to get them engaged, and that's absolutely right, especially if you're doing live video, and especially on a platform like blab.im. You really want to try to get them engaged, and I find the way you do it is people can feel your passion for the subject, right? They know that you're into it, that you know what you're talking about, that you can talk to it, especially if you take questions and you can talk to it and consistently. I think that's a big key. So if you're going to put a bow on this, and we'll kind of wrap this up, the formal show. But if you had to make, and I'll come back with my tip. One tip to just get people started, and again, the theme of this show is getting started, but it not be your end point. It's just the beginning point. If you had to give one on-camera tip, for folks to take away from this, what would it be?
Well, to kind of finish off what we were talking about in regards to being concise, having an understanding of what you're going to talk about without just rambling, and having a strategy just to kind of cap that off. I think you need to have an understanding of what your topic is and how it's going to be presented in regards to a title on social media, on YouTube or whatever. I was just talking about the NFL draft. Well, you put the NFL draft and a particular team or player on a video, and people know exactly what you're talking about. So I can start out with a pretty standard opening line. Mark Rogers TV talking NFL draft, the Buffalo Bills selected so-and-so, and go from there. People are clicking on that video because they know exactly what I'm talking about, and I don't necessarily need to grab their attention too much. If I come up with a great line to grab attention, that's great. If I'm going to start a show, as we have here, as I have with Macy Golder on Thursday nights, I start those videos with some kind of attention grabber because people are clicking on Mark and Macy show. What's that? I have no idea what it's about, what they're going to talk about. So I'm out of the gate with a tease grabbing attention, an attention grabber. And then just the most obvious, but probably least utilized portion of all this is to practice. And that means practice off camera, practice on camera. I'll tell you for myself that I've been so concentrated in recent years of having guests on, and Marty knows this well, that 99%, probably higher than that, of my videos, I click record, and when I do a solo video and I talk, and that's the first take, that's the only take, that's the one that goes to the presses, it could be 7 minutes or 17 minutes, but it's me talking nonstop, and that was the first take. But I noticed I've talked to so many guests and been the facilitator for so long and have done a lot fewer solo videos. Over the weekend, I did NFL draft videos. I was doing my second take. I was like,
oh boy,
I couldn't believe I started and I kind of stumbled and I was like, oh man, I was beating myself up. I was like,
yeah, but
I can't believe this.
But you're looking at a different level there. You know, you're much more, you know, you're kind of nitpicking, which rightly so. I mean, you're at a very high level there. But I think the point you touched on, I think, is very, very important. Is that, you know, one of the things I hear a lot on Blab is, oh, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you know what? They're absolutely correct. It does not have to be perfect, but doesn't mean that you can't strive for perfection. I think that's the big thing that I think people take away from that and say, oh, I don't have to strive for perfection. Yes, you do. If you're really serious, strive for perfection, knowing far well that you're probably not going to reach that. It's very, very difficult. But if you strive for it, maybe you're one or two rungs down, right? And you're going to be a lot higher than you would if you didn't strive for it. And also, so what if it's not, exactly how you want it, ultimately, I mean, Mark, you talked about this. The important thing is to try your best, do your best work as you can, then put it out there and then iterate as you go. I think it's important. I hear a lot of people that say they don't watch their videos, which I think is a huge mistake, to be honest with you. I think that people should watch their videos, not to nitpick on themselves, but to really look at it and say, oh, okay, is there one, maybe pick one thing that you want to iterate and improve, right? But the only way you're going to know what to look for is you got to watch yourself, But yes, strive for perfection, knowing that you're probably not going to reach it, but you'll probably do a lot better than you thought you could. And then you just iterate as you go. And there's always another rung on the ladder, right? I mean, Mark, you've helped me tremendously, especially, one of the things you pointed to was, and I saw it in the chat here, is learning cadence and learning how to pause yourself and learning to take that breath. And a lot of people talk way too fast because they want to get everything out and they're nervous. But if you just slow it down, pause, and I think that's pretty effective. And that's the hard, for me, that was very, very difficult to learn, is to take that pause for effect and continue with your thought. And lots of times what will happen, if you do that pause, instead of doing the ums, you'll see that the ums start going away because you're not afraid to slow it down and pause, right?
I was talking to somebody recently who wanted me to review their presentation, and I made that comment to them, and they had 3 presentations to give that were separated by about a month, and the improvement was considerable. And one thing I told them, that when you tend to talk like this and talk and talk and talk, and you don't raise your emotion, you don't pause, you don't do anything to break it up or emphasize anything, or you don't want to de-emphasize, you just want to emphasize. Pausing emphasizes things. Obviously, your cadence, the volume, you don't want to be erratic with your volume, but you can punch up some words or some topics, and the separation, the pause obviously can be used to separate topics that otherwise it's just kind of like air conditioning. It all kind of melts together.
The monotone, right?
and people lose interest, and they don't really hear any of it. And you probably, if you're going to talk for 5 to 10 minutes, are most people going to remember everything you say? If you can drive home 3 solid points and have them take away 3 really solid points from that, then you've communicated effectively.
Boy, that's a great point, Mark, too. Boy, I mean, don't try to cover too much. I think sometimes I'm guilty of that I think I got to explain every little thing. And I tried with today. I said, okay, I'm putting this together. Okay, I got to keep this, to key points. And my goal with this is to give folks that are watching this video, this live broadcast, key takeaways they can actually implement right away. That was really the goal here. And in order to do that, you got to kind of keep things. You got to pick what's really important and stick with that, because then there are other shows, like you said. We can get it. We can do a whole series of shows just on microphones, from a technical perspective, or we can do a whole series of shows just on cadence, and do exercises. We can get pretty deep into it, So I mean that's important. I think we're going to wrap it up here. But I think this is something. And I want to just put this out to the audience here. We're 23 shows in. And a lot of the things that we cover on the show are fairly basic, fairly surface things. I can tell you that Mark and I are both, we are working, what we want to do is come up with some more in-depth material. And we're actually working on some course material that, we're looking to offer hopefully sometime this year. It's a matter of finding the time to do it, but I mean, things that we can get into a lot deeper than we can on the show. And then, certainly we interact with folks in our Facebook group and all that. And just a couple of housekeeping things before we take off. I want to make everyone aware of that the show is broadcast live on btslive.com. That's our website, soon, hopefully soon to be website. It's our landing page right now.
And Marty,
yes,
I've got to say here, this is one of the reasons why people should look their best on camera, or at least appropriate, because then somebody like Marty may take a screenshot, and then you get this.
Let me go back to that. Oh, there you go. See,
I'm not real happy with that, but hey, if that's what it's going to be.
No, I can change that up. Sometimes I show this is a screenshot. Sometimes I show the live page. But just for simplicity's sake, since I'm using slides today, I wanted to show a screenshot of the show. So this is a landing page right now, btslive.com. Not only does it have the live show, but it also has replays 24/7 of our shows. Our last, 4 or 5 shows I put in rotation and I play it. And I want to do a lot more with this, but I kind of model it after a friend of mine, Stephen Haywood, and the Tech Buzz Network. So that's what I'm trying to do. So we're in the beginning stages here, but that's where you can see live and recorded shows. Also want to make everyone aware of this link, bit.ly/BTS email. I'm starting an email list, and there's a good reason why I'm doing it. Is I'm a firm believer, and you've heard me talk about this, is you have to own your platform. So I don't trust anything. So I want to make sure that for folks that want to know when the shows are, show notes, different other things. And again, I'm not going to spam. I haven't sent any email yet. I've just started this. But mainly to make sure people know about shows, if we do any special shows outside of the Facebook group. But I want to start that. So if you're interested, certainly go to that link and you can sign up for our email list, and you'll know when we launch our site and all that good stuff there as well. I want to make you aware of our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/BTS Live Show. So if you go to Facebook and you search BTS Live Show, that's BTS Live Show. There's another group out there with a similar name, so want to make sure that there's no confusion there. So you want to search BTS Live Show, and you'll see that's what it looks like. And everyone is welcome to join. We have a small but growing group. It's a great crew in there, and we kind of interact in there when we're not live. Another purpose for the group is we want to hear from you guys as far as what you want us to cover in future shows, and we've gotten some great topics from the group in the past. So certainly check that out. Also want to mention, and I always do this because he's a terrific person, a great guy, and a great broadcaster, but Stephen Haywood, the techbuzz.net, I invite you to check him out. He normally does a show tonight the weekly roundup, that is postponed. But he'll be back again tomorrow night with Broadcast Now. So he is the inspiration for everything I do, and just a terrific guy and someone that you want to emulate and want to check out. He's doing it at a very high level, so it's important that you check him out there. So Mark, I know I talked about this earlier, and I had I'm going to try to find the link real quick before I know you have to go. See if I can get this here. Let's see. But I am excited to announce, I announced this last week, but I'll put this up on the screen here, that I will be speaking in Germany at the Video Summit. And I'm going to go to the page here, the conference page. Now, this is live. This is a live web page. But it's you'll see some of the speakers here. My wife, Misty, and myself are both speakers. And I'll be moderating a panel on video and social media with our friend Anne Tran, who was instrumental in getting us this opportunity. Anne is fantastic. She's a travel influencer. Glenn Gilmore is another good friend. He'll be on the panel along with my wife and myself. And I believe I will be doing another breakout session on video as well, but details to be determined. This conference is in Leipzig, Germany in October. Hopefully we'll have some streaming of that conference at some point. I'll keep everyone apprised, everyone in the group and everything, so it's kind of an exciting adventure. I've never been to Germany. It'll be a quick trip, 4-day trip in October, so that's coming up. So Mark, any last words before we sign off for the day?
Well, I got to tell you, that's amazing, that opportunity right there. That is very cool. So I don't know if you're still going to have me after that. Once you reach these heights, I think I'm going to be thrown to the curb at some point.
Right. Sure. Okay. Anything, whatever you say there, Mark.
Well, I'll do a little sales job on this. Mark Rogers TV. Find me on YouTube. A number of other platforms out there, but primarily YouTube. And we've got the Mark and Macy show coming up on Thursday nights. We've been doing that just about as long as Marty and I have been producing BTS Live. So excited about that. Also do an SEC breakdown that you can find on Twitter if you are big into college football and the SEC in particular, and an ACC breakdown show on Wednesday nights as well that gets posted to my channel as well as inside the ACC.
Perfect. Excellent. And they on YouTube, search Mark Rogers TV, all one word, and you'll find your channel. And you'll
That's
be there.
it.
And you got, I mean, how many videos you got on your channel now? I mean,
well, we passed 2,000 a while ago.
Wow.
So, and when you talk about building, and we've talked about the metrics in the past and ignoring the metrics and so forth. I'm pleased with the metrics. Are the metrics gaining me millions of views or anything like that? No, there's a steady increase. If I compare it year to date, the numbers continue to rise and the engagement. So I'm happy about how we're progressing.
Perfect. Excellent. All right, folks, I think that'll do it for another edition of BTS Live. Join us next Monday, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and we'll see you again next time.